So first thing we do when we set up for a technical drawing is to set up our page. Now what you need to double check that your page is actually straight on the desk, because all of your lines will need to be straight. So just check that that's straight. With the T-square that you're using, and then using the re-stickable tape. Take only the top two corners. The reason we don't take the bottom two corners is because our T-square needs to slide cleanly over the page and it gets stuck on the tape. So we don't want that. Now, your T-square, you may need to move your desks ever so slightly away from each other. We never use the T-square along the top of the desk. So if I see you doing that, you're going to get into lots of trouble. So our T-square will always be snuggled in nicely to the side of our desk, because we will do our vertical lines using the set square and the T-square together. So if you don't already, can you make sure you have a set square? The 45-degree one is important. The other one isn't as important because it's mostly used for isometric drawing. And today we are doing orthographic drawing. What we're actually doing is called an orthographic drawing. So it's a 2D drawing of a 3D object. We start with a front view, which is going to be roughly about here. Then what we see is a side view of the same object. And the side that is facing the front view that's the side that is on the left. So when we go side view, it doesn't flip that way, if you know what I mean. It flips that way. We also do another side view over here, which flips that way. So it's that left-hand side. So right-hand side, left-hand side. And then we are going to see the top view and then the bottom view. And the back view goes like this, flip, flip. And so that's over here. Okay. So what I want you to do is to draw a line just about, let's say, 9 centimeters from the bottom of the page. So roughly 9 centimeters all the way across. When you start your orthographic drawing, you need to plan out your page. The front view will always be off to the right-hand side ever so slightly, as I showed you. So just start off with a nice light line. These are construction lines. And with a construction line, we want them to be nice and light. Orthographic projection means that we are projecting things up and across. So let's start with a front view and about 13 centimeters in from the side, make a little mark and then measure across. I'm going to draw my phone. 6.8 millimeters. So make 2 little marks. This is going to be the sides of our front view, and using the T-square snuggled into the side of the desk and the set square together, draw a vertical line. Now we're going to go extend further than we need to, past the bottom line and even further than the object we're drawing. Okay, so one line, nice long line, and then again on the second line. So I've come in 13 centimeters from the side of the page, marked off a little mark, measured 6.8 centimeters, made another mark, and drawn a line. So here I've drawn the width. Now just remember the distance where you place your front view is depending on what you're drawing. So where you place that on the page depends on what you're drawing. I'm going to draw the height, which is going to be, let's say, 13.5 centimeters. So measuring up from my line, I'm going to draw the height, 13.5. And I'm going to draw another line, and I'm also going to extend it further than I need. But essentially, I've got the height and the width of the front view of my object, the overall height and the overall width. I'm now going to do the side view. Now, what we want is for the front view and the side view to be slightly separated from each other. There's no rule about how wide that gap needs to be. So you can decide depending on your drawing. I'm going to make mine 2 centimeters. Mark off 2 centimeters and draw a vertical line. Then mark in the width of whatever object you're drawing. My phone is 1 centimeter wide. So marking the width. And then mark it up. So now I've got the front view and the side view. Okay, so you do need a 45 set square, 45 degrees, because this is where the magic happens. So the top right-hand corner of the overall height and width, you're going to draw a 45-degree line coming from there. If your lines do not intersect that 45-degree line, can you please extend them? The lines for your side view. So this is where we project the side view width up, and then it hits the 45-degree line and gets projected across. So watch what I do here. Where they hit, I'm now going to very carefully project it across and project that across as well. And if the width of my front view isn't yet intersecting those 2 lines, then I need to extend them as well. Now this rectangle here is my top view. So I've got my front view. That's my top view. And that's my side view. Okay. Now to get the other side view, we're going to do another 45-degree line. And from those 2 intersecting points, we're going to drop the side view down. So where they intersect, drop them down. And that's my side view. Now, as you can imagine, the same principles apply to the bottom view. So a 45-degree angle at the bottom here. Extend those lines so that they cut through, projecting it across. So we've got a side view, we've got a gap here of 2 centimeters. There's actually no way of simply projecting our back view. So we just draw that in. But I'm going to leave another gap of 2 centimeters. So measuring that. Marking that up. You can either measure the front view, or another technique that is used in orthographic projection is using your compass. I have some compasses you can borrow. So you could open out the compass here to the width. And then transfer the width over to the back view. Then simply draw that in. So when it comes to inking in, I'm going to show you the inking method that I was taught in high school. So when you're inking in, obviously you've got an ink pen and you've got a ruler. You do not want to be ruling over the ink. So instead of going over the line that we've just drawn, we're going to remove away. So if I start at the top of the page and work my way down, I'm not going to smudge my work. The other method is I start with my pen at the corner, and then I fade out my line, and then I start with my pen at the other corner and I blend it in. So watching what I do here. And then I should get a nice start and a nice finish. If I try to finish here, sometimes I might go over, or I might not get a nice finish. So working your way down the page. Inking in your shape. Now I can ink in all of these views at the same time. And because I've extended my lines, I can see easily where they stop and start. Okay, so the next part to this drawing is to show how high, how wide, and how deep. So height, width, and depth of our object. So our height is this, our width is this, and our depth is the side view. Now you only need to show those dimensions once, so you don't repeat them. Also, we want to do our dimensioning nice and neatly as well. So I'm going to measure, let's do this, 3 centimeters from the bottom of my bottom view. Mark that off. Draw a line. And I'm going to now also project the width onto that line. And a little bit past it. And the depth from this view also comes down. So just simply extending the lines that you already have. And I'm going to do my height over here. So measure 3 centimeters away from the drawing. Drawing a line. And I need to extend that line on the top. Okay, and to ink it in, I'm going to use a 0.05 or a 0.1. So a nice thin ink pen. I do not want my dimensioning line to touch the line of my object. So I'm going to just mark a about 2 millimeters below. Can you see that? I made a little mark there. And now I'm also going to just mark 2 millimeters below the line that I drew. You'll see why in a minute. Then I will do my dimension lines from those marks I just made. And I'm going to dimension across like that. Okay, then I make little tiny itty bitty arrows. Now my arrows are going to be sort of tapered like this and make them 3 millimeters by 2 millimeters. But I'm going to use my eye skills. So I do my line and then little points like that. Line into a little point. I don't want to see big, horrid looking arrows. I will frown upon you. So no horrid looking arrows. So that is a proper dimension line. So when you erase these little bits here, you can see a bit clearer what I've done. So there's a little gap. I go further than the actual line. And then I've got tiny little arrows. I'm going to do something slightly different for this width one because it's quite narrow. And on a drawing such as this, it can look a little bit messy. So we're going to dimension on the outside. So let's just have a look. I'll show you how that's done. Again, marking off a few millimeters below where I'm dimensioning from and below the lines. And I will mark those lines in now. Okay. Now, instead of doing the line in between the gap, we're going to do our arrows on the outside. So I'm going to extend about 1 centimeter, just arbitrary, and about 1.5 centimeters on that line, like so. And then do my little itty bitty arrows. Like that. Okay. Now, before I show you the one on the side here, I'm going to just show you how you write in the measurements. So, again, using our rulers, put your ruler on the line, and I want you to mark off 1 millimeter above the line, and then another 3 millimeters. So overall 4 millimeters. Okay, can you see that? Then nice and light construction line over there, construction line there, or guidelines, I should say, guideline, guideline. So it should be roughly in the middle and just off to the side above the line here. And then double checking your measurements. I think this was 58 millimeters. We're going to write it in millimeters. Do not write millimeters. Oh, what the heck? My measuring is really bad. Okay, so 63 millimeters. I think it was meant to be 68 and 10. So I write 63 and 10 in my bestest writing that I can, and then ink it in with my little pen. Because what we're also going to write on this page is all dimensions in millimeters, scale 1 to 1. You can rub out your guidelines for the writing. Okay, we're going to dimension now the height slightly differently. So you should have a line 3 centimeters away. Again, mark a couple of millimeters away from the object they've drawn and past that 3 centimeter line that you drew, and draw in those lines. I've done my dimension lines 3 centimeters away from the object, but it depends on your drawing, because you might need to go a bit closer or you could go further away. Should be fine. Okay, so I'm now going to draw those lines in. And this line here. And then what do I do, Justin? Do my arrows, that's right. Because that's showing what we've measured. So we're showing this measurement here. So this measurement here is that measurement. Okay, and then for our rating, we're going to... I didn't measure them. I can do it by my eye skills. So if you want to measure them when you're learning, then that's a good idea. Yeah. So again, we're going to do 1 millimeter, and now the dimension goes on the left-hand side of the line. Okay, left-hand side of the line, as if we're looking at it, and that's the top. Okay, the top. So we're reading it this way, left to right. So measuring again 1 millimeter and 3 millimeters high, so overall 4 millimeters, roughly somewhere in the middle. Do your guidelines, and this is 135 millimeters. 135. Nice. So the last thing that we'll do is we'll just do a line down the bottom. Oh, maybe let's make it 4. Doesn't really matter. 4 millimeters. Now, the reason we put all dimensions in millimeters is because that means we don't have to go around writing millimeters, 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 millimeters everywhere on the page. So if it says it on the page, that means any dimension that you're reading is in millimeters. So in your neatest capital letters, you're going to write all dimensions in millimeters, scale 1:1. So that's the ratio. So that means 1 millimeter on the page equals 1 millimeter in real life. We'll talk a little bit more about scale at another lesson.